Diaries of a Working Couple. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Chris.
And did you know that the highest point in Pennsylvania is still lower than the lowest point in Colorado?
Nice.
It's by like 100 feet or so.
The highest point of Pennsylvania
Is still
lower than the lowest point of Colorado.
So the highest point in Pennsylvania is Mount Davis, which is 3,213 feet above sea level.
Okay.
The lowest point in Colorado is the Aracari River. I think I said that right. And that's
Sounded good to me.
3,314.
Nice. That's pretty legit.
Yeah.
So Colorado's just always a little bit higher than Pennsylvania.
Yes, that is what it sounds like.
Because they smoked weed out there.
Well, it's legal recreationally out there.
Yeah.
A little different.
I'm just joshing.
But not always. So we are recording this after our birthdays.
It's past birthday season already.
It is past birthday season already. Chris and I do have the same birthday, so it was nice and easy. We do a one and done celebration.
I mean, we kind of did like 3 different celebrations so far, and we still have one left to do with your parents, I believe.
We do, but it's like, when I say one and done, it's like my parents don't have to come up for me and then come up again for you. So like, yes, we do our own celebration, and then we do one with your family and then one with my family, but it's not like we each have one.
Yes,
it's not like
we share a marriage, we share a house,
we share a dog,
and we also share our birthdays.
and our last names.
Yeah.
You shared yours.
Yeah, I always had mine.
That's fine. I can go back to my old one.
I would not recommend. So, yeah, we went out to dinner with my parents and Barry and Sydney, and that was super nice.
It was really good. It was this little place that it was very inconspicuous when you like drive past it.
Yeah, I also thought it was very fun to watch my dad be forced to a menu that is just a little outside of his normal taste.
Just a little bit,
Like,
but enough.
He loves a filet mignon, but then when they add, the special sauces and stuff.
Yeah, there was a French onion demi broth and a port redux, like a reduction sauce like that.
Yeah, is it Redux or Rideau? I don't know.
I was thinking Rideau, but then at the same time, I thought it stood for like reduction. So
I know that it has to do with like some type of reduction of something, like, but whatever.
Listen, we're not fancy.
I'm not fancy, but it was fun to watch that. He's a mozzarella sticks and steak man, and
he couldn't even get his beer.
Oh yeah, so then he also wanted like our Yuengling Lager. It's local to Pennsylvania. And, it's probably one of the most famous beers around here, and they don't have that on tap. But they had, it was it some California lager or something? But it
was like a craft. All the beers they had were like craft beers.
Yeah, it was a little lighter than like a Yuengling, and it also had like kind of a little bit of a fruity aftertone to it.
According to Dad, it tasted
like apricots.
Like apricot. I don't know how often he eats apricots.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think I've ever had an apricot.
I've had dried apricots.
Yeah, and like, he just picked that out right away, and I'm like, who knows if that's true or not, but whatever. It was interesting. So yeah, he definitely got pushed outside his limits a little bit. Different beer. Instead of mozzarella sticks, he had fried cauliflower
risotto
balls. Which I had one, and it was awesome. Because
I didn't try one, so I don't know how they were.
Well, they only gave 4 for the plate, and they were kind of small, but so I let him have 3, but I wanted to try one, and it had like a red sauce, which I thought was going to be like marinara. It was like marinara with hot sauce in it, or like a hot salsa kind.
Was it like hot sauce or like a red pepper flakes kind of spice kind of?
It was like a sauce, but but it tasted like it had like salsa in it or something, like with a little
Okay.
bit of kick to it.
Well, it's what like so we also went to a brewery for our birthday, just the two of us, and the ketchup we got there with our fries, it tasted like ketchup with like an actual hot sauce mixed
Yeah,
into it.
like
So
Tapatio or something.
yeah, so I wasn't sure if that's kind of what it was or if it
No,
was
this
more
had more
like,
of like a salsa type of taste.
okay.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I mean, I have a terrible palate anyway. But yeah, so we went out for that dinner and that was super nice and fun. We did do like a typical date night on our, well, like an in-house date night on our actual birthday because we wanted to go to a specific brewery.
that is closed on
And
Wednesdays.
yeah, I did not look at what days it was open. Turns out it was closed. So we what did we order?
We ended up ordering Mexican.
Mexican. That's right. Oh yeah, because I got a chimichanga.
You did get a chimichanga. And my mom came up that day. So I know you worked from home, but we got Greek for lunch and Mom and I went and got a pedicure. So it was nice.
And then we ended up going out on Friday
To the brewery.
to the
Yeah.
brewery, which was fun.
Yeah. That was good. They have like alcoholic smoothie type beers.
Oh
I-
yeah,
I-
schmoogies.
Yeah, schmoogies. I don't know. I don't know what you would actually qualify them as. They were good. I would not be able to drink more than one because it was very sweet, like sugary.
Yeah.
Uh,
It just tasted kind of like it was a very smooth smoothie. Like there's no like chunks of anything in there.
No.
Man, it just like reminded me. It's kind of like a very milky smoothie. Like in terms of like
It was
the-
a very thin smoothie.
yeah, like it was still liquidy. It wasn't like I guess when you drink a normal smoothie, it's really cold because it usually has like blended ice in it and stuff, and this is not that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right? Like if you
It was
like,
odd. I don't know the best way to describe
I think
it.
it was good. I think that maybe if we went there again, I would try another flavor just to try it, but I don't see myself like craving it.
No.
Like, oh, like I want to go there to try this one or go get one again.
Yeah.
I think it's like a novelty thing.
Yeah.
But before we get into our topic today, the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl.
Yes. The
Boop,
Eagles
boop, 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 boop.
just
Boop,
won.
boop, boop.
The Eagles.
Yeah. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Eagles, Eagles. Okay, I'm done now.
Yeah, we just watched the Eagles beat the 49ers. So in 2 weeks they'll be going to the Super Bowl, which is exciting.
I'm pumped.
They last time they won the Super Bowl was when we started dating.
Yes. Yep. But you left before the game was over.
Yes, because I had an exam the next morning and they would not move it.
Yeah. Which was so lame by the school because they know how wild Philly gets.
One of my classmates like slept in her closet because it was so loud that was the only way she could get some semblance of like quiet.
Yeah. I'm already watching Instagram reels of Philly right now, and it's wild.
Oh,
People are
it's-
standing on top of the subway stops, and they're collapsing in, so like people are falling down.
Already?
Yeah, it's wild. Some people got up on the light poles already, like they're not greased enough.
That doesn't surprise me. They definitely should have been like hyper greased.
Yeah, it's pretty wild on like Broad Street and what is
Yeah.
it, like Market or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah. No, anyone who I if you've never been to Philly, if you've never experienced this, consider yourself, I can't even say consider yourself lucky, but it's definitely something safer to experience from afar. Because people are wild in.
Yeah, pretty dope.
It's really cool to watch and be a part of from a distance.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about buying a house.
Yes.
We are just about hitting our 2-year anniversary. Actually, to this day,
today is
it
the
is our
2-year.
2-year anniversary of buying our house. And we know that we have some friends that are also in the market to buy houses. And, I think it's a good thing to talk about. It's definitely a new experience, in adulthood.
It's
And
not something people really like talk to you about or teach you about. It's really something they just say, good luck.
yeah, especially during COVID times or
Co-
like the last 2 years, the housing market has been extremely wild.
yes, it has definitely been a seller's market, right?
Sellers market for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sellers are getting ridiculously high prices for their houses. And, about a year ago, interest rates were so low that, it even drove housing prices higher. Because it seems to be a balance. It's like, once you get into owning a house, then like the rest of the market is kind of relative. Like as interest rates rise, the price of the house will probably be lower when it's
Right.
sold. And then as interest rates go down, the price of the house will go up. So it's kind of like they even each other out. But it's that first time purchasing a house is when, you're making that initial investment,
Yeah.
which like, we got in at a great time and we got a great price for our house.
We got very lucky with how everything turned out for ours.
But I think that like some people during COVID put themselves in a hard spot because they probably stretched their budget and they went and bought a house for a lot more than they were probably expecting. And then, your interest rate is low and you're just stuck at that.
Yeah.
Where now, at this time, I still think that people are asking ridiculously high prices for their houses.
Mm-hmm.
But if the interest rate was higher, and you put in an offer for a house and you got it at, let's say, a lower rate than you would have during COVID times, if the interest rate drops again, you could always refi.
That is true.
So you could refinance your mortgage and get a better interest rate. So like you can kind of, work both
Compensate,
ends,
yeah.
right? Like the interest rate was high, so you got a lower price, but then the interest rate dropped, you refinance to get that better interest rate. You could possibly save some money there. So, we did a wee bit of research and stuff about 2 years ago, and let's talk through that journey.
So when we started looking at houses, when we talked about like buying a house and everything, I was under the impression. So growing up, we had 2 houses. We had our original house that my dad bought before he met my mom, and that's what they moved into when they got married, and they had me and my brothers. And then we moved from that house to my parents' current house. And so we were looking for houses, my thought was, hey, we should just look for a starter home. We don't have to look for anything big or crazy, but like just a starter home, something for the first however many years, and then go from there. Because that's kind of what I thought was the standard, or that's what most people do. You get a starter home, your family grows, and you can get a bigger home. But I know when we were talking, that was not your plan.
No. When I was born, I guess when Barry was born, I think my parents already owned the house that they're currently in. So I grew up and I never moved. And, well, you've only moved, to college and stuff like that. So you've only dealt with very small living arrangements. I've moved a lot of times, and I am just so done with moving. Moving is terrible. It's stressful. It's annoying to pack everything up and move it. So in my mind, when we were looking at houses, I was like, I want to get a house that could last us forever.
Now, is that just because you didn't want to move again, or is that because like growing up, you always had the same house and you didn't think starter home and then you thought,
Well, so these are things that you have to have conversations with your spouse about. So like that would be my first piece of advice. Whoever you're buying a house with, if you're buying it with somebody, you need to get on the same page with what you want. So,
and what, not even what you want, but what you're looking for. Because I know what I wanted in my forever home. I didn't care if it was in my starter home because it wasn't going to be my forever home.
yeah, I'm sorry, repeat your question that you were asking me that you
So when you decided, oh, we're looking for our forever home, did you think, was it just because you didn't feel like moving, or was it because like you only ever had the one house, like you only
Okay.
ever
Yeah.
occupied the one house and you didn't ever think about,
Okay. That's how bad my short-term memory is cuz I totally forgot what you asked me there, but now I remember. So I would say that one, you know, I think that you want to buy a house. When you buy a house, you don't want to have to sell it within a certain amount of time, or it's actually not worth. Like, I don't know,
right.
you're kind of losing money if you sell it too quickly. So like, I knew that we were getting married, we were engaged at the time that we bought the house. I knew that you would want to start, trying for a family within the next 5 years. So if we bought some starter house that was big enough for us two, but, adding a small child would cause us to outgrow it already, then to me, that's not worth the investment to go out and buy a house. Put a ton of work into it, move everything in just to, a few years down the line when, you get pregnant and then we're like, oh crap, now we got to move. Now we have a pregnant wife and me struggling to move a bunch of crap to a bigger house, and then dealing with selling a house and buying a house at the same time while planning a family. No, done with that. That shut me off of the starter home thing, in my mind. And then like, I think it's sad when you move houses when you have kids because well, maybe not when they're younger, but like, imagine if your parents sold their house right now, wouldn't you be a little sad?
Yeah, I would be. And that's the thing. Like when we moved, I was 5. When we moved, it was the summer after I turned 5. So like, yes, it's sad, but
And you're the oldest.
yeah, and I'm the oldest. So, and it doesn't,
Like, I doubt your brothers have many memories, if any at all, of the old house.
I have sparse memories of the old house.
Yeah, so I don't think that's quite old enough. But if you have a kid who's probably 10 or above, they'll probably be a little more attached to the house that they grew up in.
Even if they get to like school age where they have friends and everything.
Yeah.
We had friends, but I feel like the friends you make when you're in like preschool are like, at least for me, they were very fleeting.
Yeah.
Like I never really kept in touch with any of them. I never, I had kids that lived on either side of us, but like I barely remember their names.
Yeah. So that was what turned me off of the starter home situation. Also, like, we both have decent careers as well, so we're fortunate enough that we could potentially afford a more expensive house that would meet some of our long-term goals as well.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely helpful. And it's different because so Chris and I are still for the most part financially independent of each other. Like, yes, we have the house and everything, and we have a joint account, but for the most part, like, I have my bank account and he has his bank account. And so when it came to looking into houses, in addition to trying to plan and budget for a wedding, then I'm like, okay, now how am I going to plan and budget for a house when I just graduated pharmacy school? So that was, at least for me, that was another reason why I was looking like, okay, like starter house, I can help more with the starter house than I would be able to if we did like a big house.
Yeah. I guess I have been thinking about houses for probably since I met you, but just because of my own investment goals to get a house. So like I've been saving for years and years,
Yeah.
because I graduated college in 2017. I lived at home for almost a year, paid off all my student loans, paid off my car, or I just bought it in cash or whatever. And then after that, it's just straight savings from there. And then did I move back to Manayunk with Barry, or did I just move straight into Manayunk with you?
No, so you
I went straight from my
moved
parents' house to
to Manayunk with me.
with Manayunk with you. Yeah, so
Yeah, because you went from you and Barry and Manayunk. We were cleaning out that place when you moved back with your parents.
yeah. So like, then I moved in with you. The only cost I had was rent, and then the rest of it was just being saved as well. So I guess we didn't really talk about finances that much before, like, while we were engaged, we both made an agreement to set aside a certain amount of our paychecks a month for the wedding. But like, you probably weren't fully aware that I already had a decent amount banked up towards a house.
I knew you had a better savings than I did, just based on you being able to live from home and everything, but I did not know what you had.
Yeah. So anyway, so this brings us to the beginning of the house buying journey, which was one, talking about starter home versus like a forever home is a good start, but then you have to try and form a more full picture of, what you're looking for. And just as a reminder, you can't always have what you want.
No, so especially if you're buying a house with someone else, like buying any house, you're going to have to compromise. If you have to take someone else's opinion also into consideration, there's going to be even more compromises. But there's also when Chris says like you have to like come up with like a full picture, like when we were talking forever home versus starter home, when we decided forever home, okay, that means we got to make sure it's safe if we have when we have kids, it's going to be in a good school district. So if our kids go to public school, they have a decent education, and like things like that you don't really think about when you're just looking for a starter home, where it's not going to matter 10 years down the line.
Yeah. So I think that there's kind of two different categories, right? There's your things that you need to fit your lifestyle that there's not really any budging about. So, for example, Lava is trying to grab this blanket.
Lava
so
wants your blankie.
I'm just going to hand it to her.
Do you want another?
No, it's okay. So, for the needs, in my case, I needed to have at least a one-car garage. And that's because I ride motorcycles, and that is a big part of my lifestyle, and I needed a place to store them. I have a brand new motorcycle, or at the time it was brand new, so it wasn't something that I was willing to store outside. I needed something, a covered space. Maybe a carport could have been a compromise on that, but like I still would have been a little cringy about that.
Well, and it also depends on where you live. Like a carport here wouldn't have been as bad as a carport where we used to live.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I mean, like we were lucky. So we lived together before when we lived in Manayunk. So when we were coming into buying the house, we knew what we absolutely wanted, and from our individual renting experiences and then renting together, like I know when we were looking at our apartment, I said I need to have a dishwasher and I need to have a washer dryer, like not necessarily like in the apartment itself, but like easily accessible. I did not want to have to like go to a laundromat or like lug everything, like all of my dirty clothes outside of the house and all that stuff. I just was not gonna put up with that.
Yeah. So yeah, you wanted a laundry and dishwasher. I also was super big on, and like this is something that is more of a want because it's something that you could easily add into a kitchen. You just punched a microphone.
Listen, Lava just took your blanket. Now she's trying to take mine. Okay? Stop. This is my blankie. Goober.
Yeah, so another thing that I like wanted in terms of a kitchen is I wanted a garbage disposal so bad because we did not have one in Manioc. And my old Manioc apartment had one. I grew up with one. I was so used to having one, and having to clean out the bottom,
Like the sink catcher.
the sink catcher was just so annoying. But like that's something that would fall in a want category, right?
Yeah,
Because
so,
if
like,
we looked at a house without one, we could easily add one.
and growing up, I never had a garbage disposal. So it was never something I was like, oh, we have to have this. Because I got used to cleaning out the sink catcher. Was it gross? Yeah, I hated doing it. But that's what we did growing up.
Yeah, and okay, so then also we're looking at a forever home, and we know that we want to have a family. So bedrooms was a key need for us in a house, right? So we wanted to have. I think out of all the houses we looked at, we did look at some 3-bedroom houses, but I think it was 3 or more.
Yeah, I think
was,
we
like, the
did
main
3 or
requirement.
more because when we talked about having a family, we wanted more than one child, or we want more than one child. And it's one of those things that growing up, I always had my own room. My brothers each had their own room. You and Barry had your own room. So if we have more than one child, it would be nice to have them each to have their own room, or at least if we have a boy and a girl, not make them share a room, especially during like when they hit like middle school age. It's just kind of like weird to have to.
Yeah. So the house we ended up with, we have 4 bedrooms. One of them acts as my office, which is, was one of the main intentions for one of the bedrooms, at least for now. And then we have a guest room and a craft/unknown room right now.
It's like a catch-all room. Whenever we do end up having kids, it will become the nursery. But it's nice because I use that for like that's where I'll put our Christmas gifts when I start getting Christmas gifts together. I have all of my craft stuff in there. We can turn it into an additional guest room if we have to, if we have multiple people over that need to stay over. So yeah, it's kind of like a multi-purpose room.
Yeah. So we could eventually have our bedroom, 2 kids' bedrooms, and an office up there, or somehow transition the office somewhere else in the house, whether it's down in the basement or something, and keep a guest room. But we have plenty of rooms in the house we ended up with. That was something we needed, and we got it. Was there anything else? Oh, so like, I guess we could talk about that later too when we talk about some of the houses that we saw. But like, we wanted it to be in an area where our kids could play and not have any issues with like being too close to a busy street or something like that.
And there, like I said earlier, that's things that you have to think about if you're looking at a forever home versus something that's like a 5 to 10 year plan where you don't have to worry about toddlers running near a busy street.
Yeah. All things to think about.
Was there anything you had to compromise on?
In our current house?
In our current house.
I would say that the family room is too small. Like that was like my biggest complaint about this house was that, my parents' house growing up, the family room was always the entertainment space. We had plenty of couch space. We had, 3 or 4 additional chairs in the room. So, on Christmas, we could have our whole family scattered throughout the whole room. We could bring a few folding chairs, but, mostly everybody's sitting in there comfortably with, like, the kids on the floor and opening their presents and stuff. And, there was no space issues where, like, now if we have people over, it's like you put 5 people on the couches and, now you have somebody in the middle of 2 people on the main couch. And then, like, we have to start bringing in chairs from other rooms that aren't like, comfortable chairs to sit in, like these that we're sitting in. And then then it gets really cramped in there too. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
room to spread out. So that was the only thing that I wasn't a fan of in this house.
That's
But
fair.
I think the end goal, as you're doing a walkthrough of a house too, you're trying to think about, how can we make this house work for us?
Sorry.
And
my ear itched.
so, yeah, I didn't know what you were listening for, but yeah, you gotta you have to try and envision as you're walking through a house, how can we make this work for us? And one thing that, I was a fan of was our basement's huge, and it's pretty much the whole floor plan of the first floor of the house. So there's potential of putting entertainment space downstairs that could hold a bunch of people. So, it has potential if we wanted to go that route.
And we likely will. It's just going to take a lot of time and
It's just a lot of work. A
It
lot of
is.
work
It's a
that's
lot of-
just on my list that I got to do.
well, I was gonna say, and that's the thing. It's like you have to. I mean, that's the other thing when you're looking at houses. Just what are you willing to put the time in and the work in for, and would you rather just pass up?
Yeah. It really depends on how you grew up. Some people, they don't have the necessary skills to do all the repairs themselves, so they have to hire people to do that. And that can be very, very costly. For example, my dad was just telling me a story about a family friend who wanted to have 2 faucets installed in a bathroom. And I believe the plumber was charging $1,000 or something to have that happen. And, it's really not that hard to do if you just want to put a little bit of time and learning in how to do these things. But I've installed almost every single faucet now in this house since we moved in and we put new faucets in. So, and I don't think I had any type of plumbing experience, in the past. My dad showed me how to do the first one, and then I just repeated that whole process around the whole house. But if you're willing to learn and stuff, YouTube's an awesome resource, there's so many resources out there for you to learn how to do these things. Today when me and my dad, this is kind of a little side story, but me and my dad were working on the garage doors. I needed to replace some rotten wood because we're getting new garage doors put in this week. And we wanted to get this all finished up and painted before they come with the new garage doors. And it's just all this stuff is so simple, and it just takes time, and you got to measure things out, and it's not that hard, but it takes time and effort. And if you're willing to put that in, you can save a lot of money. The repairs that we made today, probably you could get a carpenter out to do it, and it's going to cost, $1,000 or whatever. But we spent, I think, $50 on wood.
Yeah.
And, 2 hours or 3 hours of time or whatever. So, these are all things to consider because, if you're less handy, then you might want to look for something that's a little more move-in ready. Our house was a shit show when we showed up.
That it was.
Everything's rotted, or all the wood around the house, the window boxes and the garage doors, and everything's rotted.
We'll get there, dude. Don't fret.
We'll get there. It needed some TLC, but it's got good bones.
It's got good bones. Everyone told us it's got good bones, which is their way of saying it's a shithole, but you can make it great. But it was a mess when we got it. It was not well cared for.
Yep.
It was very, very poorly cared for.
Okay, so now we have a general idea what kind of house we're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. Or, if you're listening and you're looking to buy a house, let's assume you're at the point that you know what you want.
You've discussed it with your significant other or whoever you're moving in with.
Or yourself if you're buying it yourself.
Or whatever other personalities you have hanging out inside your head.
Yes, consult your dog. Make sure that they're okay with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's the next thing to do? Well, one, I think that you can go online and look at, mortgage calculators and stuff. Before you're really serious at looking, you can go and figure out, what kind of mortgage can I get, or what kind of monthly payment would I be okay with spending?
Did we even look at that? So there was a point. So I know we did, but there was a point in time. So our house hunting journey We looked for a short period of time. Like, we didn't have a realtor. It was very like preliminary. We were looking at houses, just kind of getting a feel for everything. Your parents would come with us. And then we like stopped going and looking. Like, we would kind of like see things online, but we didn't really like.
Yeah, I've been doing mortgage, I knew how much of a mortgage we could have afforded way before you were probably even thinking about buying a house.
Okay. So, well, I wasn't sure because I know that wasn't something in my mind until we got more serious. What I was like when we would go visit the houses, I would look and be like, I like this. I don't like this.
Yeah. So from my point of view, the first thing I did was figure out what am I okay with spending. Generally, mortgage companies will approve you for a ridiculous amount compared to what you should actually buy. So, you may have a decent job and go get a mortgage broker to give you a pre-approval, and they're going to be like, "Oh, you're pre-approved for 700,000 or something," and then it's like, you're going to be really stretching your money.
Like minimum payments.
For minimum payments, and that's for 30 years. And God forbid if something happens, you get sick.
You lose your job. We got the
Or,
global pandemic.
You have two incomes and you go down to one, whatever. So you just got to be smart with that. I'm sure, your mortgage broker or realtor, when you get one, can talk some sense into you about how to properly budget your money in terms of mortgages and stuff. But I think in general, the point I was trying to make was you have to find what kind of budget. So that way you can just look generally what kind of houses can I afford. And then I think that like Zillow is a great place to start.
Zillow, Redfin, any of those online where you can just kind of see what's available and like the pricing, and they have a bunch of pictures. It's definitely helpful.
Yep. Yeah. So like just scanning Zillow or something for a month or two, just to figure out, see, are these houses selling quickly in my price range? Find things that you like, what you don't like, just from pictures, descriptions, stuff like that.
And see what you can afford versus what you like, because there are some things that you'll be like, oh, I love that, but it's like way out of budget. Like, it kind of helps when you like see what you can afford and then adjust your expectations.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out about when you're looking at properties online is that they make properties look so big.
They make them look massive. They have professional photographers come in that know all the right angles and make it look very fancy.
Yeah, there was like at least 3 or 4 times where we showed up to a house that I thought was going to be quite large, and it was very small. And I was like, oh boy, like, is this the same house we looked at online? And I would say, like, if you think something looks spectacular, it's going to look good. If it looks good, it's probably going to look eh.
And like our house, the house we ended up buying, there were only 6 pictures on Zillow.
Yeah, it's a 2,400 square foot house, which is, medium to large, and there were 6 pictures.
And in the pictures, it looked meh. So when we showed up to look at it,
oh my gosh, I was just talking to Jason because I was trying to find a floor plan for
Hi, Jason.
House. Hi, Jason. We were trying to find a floor plan for the house. Because I wanted to draw it up in the architecture software so that I can start looking at kitchen stuff.
Okay.
But I found a Redfin posting for this house, and it has a picture of the bathroom upstairs, the master bath. The countertop and sinks and everything looks so clean. I was like, when the hell did they take this picture?
I'm pretty sure the picture we saw on Zillow had dead plants in it.
I was like, when did they take this picture? I was like, I've never seen this bathroom this clean when we came to look at it. It was extraordinary. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Way off topic. But yeah, I think look around. You can call, like Zillow or like any of these ads have the listing agent there, and you can call the listing agent directly to set up times to go look at the house, and you don't need to have a realtor to do that.
You you don't have to have a realtor to do that. Sometimes it's helpful to have a realtor or like some point of contact, just because there was one house we went to look at, and we like the realtor, the selling realtor was like, "Oh yeah, here's the like code for the key. Go ahead and take a look, this, that, and the other." And we showed up, and right as we showed up, there was like another showing that was like leaving, or like they were finishing things up, and they're like, "Oh, well, when's your appointment?" We're like, "We don't have one." They're like, "Well, that's weird." And like the like selling agent or the buyer's agent seemed like really up in arms. And
I could see some realtors declining to show a house unless you have a realtor too. I don't think we had any of those situations, but
we didn't, but it was definitely easier. I felt like it was more, I can't even say easier, but it was easier to like understand.
It makes it easier for the selling realtor because the buyer's realtor will do the walkthroughs of the house and everything. So there's kind of like this link of trust between the selling and buying
between the realtors, really.
Yeah, between realtors, so that like, they'll just be like, all right, here's like the lockbox combination, you can bring your client through, as opposed to if you don't have a realtor and you're contacting the selling realtor, then like that realtor has to make time in their schedule to show the house when there's 30 other people lined up that he doesn't even have to meet with to do it. So
yeah.
I think that there was like an old saying, or not saying, but like rule or something, whatever. Like my parents kept telling me that contacting the selling agent directly could help you in the long run because you could save money because you're kind of like cutting out one realtor out of the commission of the sale.
Yeah, so that's what a lot of people think and understand. And if you're very well versed in like buying and selling homes, I'm sure that's helpful. I know for us, I'm glad we had a realtor because I felt like she was more helpful and knew more about everything than what we would have known.
Yeah, I think the times have changed a little bit too, to where a realtor is probably more necessary than it was before. But yeah, I guess like we're kind of slowly progressing towards what the next step would be, but to find a realtor
if you choose to get one.
Yeah.
So I know we actually found ours while we were.
She was the selling realtor.
She was a selling realtor at a different house we were looking at. And this was during our preliminary search when we like started looking around, and then we were like, yeah, we won't do anything just yet. But she was super helpful, and she was very straightforward with like when we would ask questions and everything. She'd be like, it's honestly more helpful to do this way because otherwise like the selling realtor can kind of like, or the selling agent can like scam you, and they can be like dishonest or kind of upsell you or and so it was helpful when like we weren't even looking for a realtor at that point. We were just kind of doing our own thing, looking at a couple different houses that said they were available and just kind of seeing what was available, what was out there.
Yeah. So I guess I don't really have advice for finding a realtor except for, you may know somebody who has a good realtor, and I don't know how there's like we've met some bad realtors too.
Oh my gosh,
like remember that dude
the
at
very
that,
first
at that
house
old
we looked
house
at.
that we looked
The
at?
very first house we looked at.
This guy was so unprofessional.
Ridiculously unprofessional, and like it was like I asked him different things about the house, and he just didn't know or would like make things up.
Yeah, he didn't really care about that sale at all, and that was before COVID. So no, oh no, that was during COVID because
it was during COVID because he had the like bandana like
yeah,
gator
and
thing,
and the price of the house was so high for the crapper it was.
Oh my god, it was such a shitter.
But yeah, that guy was super unprofessional. So I don't really know of a good way of like finding a good realtor except for knowing somebody who knows a realtor. Or I feel like if you know somebody that's like a mortgage broker, or if you have any recommendations, or if you get any recommendations for like a mortgage broker, they may be able to refer a realtor that they work with often.
Or
Uh,
like a realty group. Like it's not always like a specific person, but a lot of times, like I know, so my uncle helped us with our mortgage, and we were talking to him about it, like just figuring out like when we were getting pre-approved and everything, like before we got really serious. He's like, well, I can send you like a company that I normally work with, and they'll be able to get you set up with a realtor that's in your area, that they trust. And so it's a lot of word of mouth unless you choose to see all the different listing agents and have them do the walkthroughs with you, like as like a preliminary thing. You might find someone good there, but you also find a lot of like really pushy people.
yeah.
You remember the one that was the rancher by Mumums?
Yeah. She wanted me to like sign some paper that like pretty much told, like put in writing that she was my realtor, and I was like, dude, I'm just trying to look at this house. Like,
Yeah, it was
you
like
know,
she's
I was like, I'm
well,
not gonna sign this. And I don't think she expected me to say that I'm not gonna sign it, but I wasn't gonna sign it.
yeah, it was weird. She was pretty pushy, and that's the thing. You just gotta like, you have to find someone that you connect with and that understands you, because like there were plenty that we just were not here
Yeah.
for.
So we ended up with a good realtor, and also, like Jamie mentioned, our mortgage broker was, part of the family, so that helped out a lot. So we got pre-approved, and one thing that he did for us, which I think is awesome advice, and if you're going to, this is jumping ahead a little bit about putting offers in, but if you're going to put an offer in on a house, you have to attach the pre-approval with the offer. And one thing that he does is he makes sure, like, he works with the realtor so that when the realtor's like, okay, these clients are going to put in an offer for X amount, he actually sends a pre-approval notice to the realtor that has that exact amount on it.
So like for example, ours was, we had like an escalation clause in ours, like we're offering X amount, but we will escalate every like $1,000 to outbid whoever else goes up, with a cap at like 400,000 or whatever it was, whatever the cap is. And so he sent a pre-approval letter over for that cap.
Yeah. Yeah. And, because ideally, you like, if you put in a offer for X amount and they don't have any other offers, but they see that there's an escalation clause, there's some bad apples that could take advantage of that to try and screw some more money out of the seller.
Yep.
So, or like you also have to attach, like there's a form that gets attached that says all your assets and everything too. Like they know everything. They know like how much money you have and everything, and I don't know. So anyway, that's a great idea. Pretty much it says you're pre-approved for the amount you're putting the offer in for, and that way they can't try and
Get
screw
more money
you
out
up
of you.
higher, because then that causes more interactions between the mortgage broker and the buyer, and it could complicate the whole thing.
It becomes headaches.
So yeah.
Want to talk about some of the houses that we looked at, since
Oh boy.
we hit the realtor, we hit talking about everything, hit talking about a mortgage, and kind of looking at what you can't afford.
Yeah. So
I think the
houses
next thing
we
would
looked
be
at,
to go look at houses.
Yeah, the houses we looked at, the first one, what a dump. Do you remember it was the one over by Raymore and Flanagan, close to that area?
That was the one with the guy with the gator.
With the crappy realtor.
Oh my god. Oh, I remember that
house was, it was like or it wasn't a rancher, but
it was not a rancher.
It was super old.
It was old. You could tell no one had lived in it in a while.
Yeah, it was like it was a married older couple that lived there, and I
Oh.
think one of them passed away.
And then the other one was in like a home or something.
Yeah, so the
and
house was unoccupied for a while, and it had some plumbing issues too. Like I remember it had some septic issues. You know, it didn't have public sewer, didn't have public water.
I remember the flooring at the front was like there was a large patch that it was wood, but it was discolored and it bowed every time your dad stepped on it.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. That's
so
not like a huge deal, but
it's not, but like that's something you have to think about when you're like buying the house. Do you want to have to go through and deal with wherever that leak is coming from, number one, and then number two, replacing the floors.
Yeah. Everything was so like outdated.
It was
and
so
old.
outdated.
So dusty.
It was dirty. It hadn't been cleaned.
It still had everything from the older gentleman that lived there in it. Like nobody cleaned it out or anything before they started showing it. I guess the person who inherited the house was gonna have like people clean the house out before it was sold, but really I think they could have cleaned if they would have did that beforehand. They probably would have got better offers. I think they still sold it though because
they sold it for a ridiculously high price anyway.
Yeah.
Looking at it, but even like at the end when we were looking at everything, it was not on a busy road, but it was on a busier road. It was like a connecting street.
Yep.
It wasn't like a cul-de-sac or anything, and it had no sidewalks.
Yep.
And that was one of the things we were talking about at the end. And your mom was like, I didn't even think about that, but I mean that's. Growing up in a neighborhood that had cul-de-sacs, whenever we went on walks, we would just walk around on the sidewalk and everything.
Yeah. So that house was pretty much out after we looked at it. We didn't have any discussion about that.
Yeah, we just knew.
We looked at a house.
I feel like the next house
The split level one.
that wasn't the next one we looked at, because I think the next one we looked at was like a flip, or it was recently like the roof was redone. That's where we met our realtor.
Oh yeah, we did look at that
But
one. That one was move-in ready.
It was move-in ready, but there was no basement.
Yeah, so it was almost this house.
It was almost this house. It didn't have a basement. Didn't have like it had an attic, but I don't think it was like finished.
Yeah. Yeah, the house looked really good.
It did look very good.
The one complaint that I remember I had was that the family room was too small when we looked at it.
It was everything just felt a little too small.
Yeah.
Like the room seemed just a little small. The kitchen just didn't seem as easily maneuverable, especially if you wanted to put a table or something in there.
Yeah, it definitely was move-in ready though, and it was in a nice neighborhood. Like
And
it was in
it was in a good neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, so the house after that I think was the house where we showed up and the
Yeah.
and there was another set of people walking through the house, and we like didn't have a realtor with us, so we kind of just like walked in on them. And I remember we like walked around the backyard for a while.
Yeah.
While they were in there. But that house was also like it was a new flip.
Yeah, that one was a flip, and it was a split level, like a true split level, not like a bi-level. Like you like walked up 3 steps and then there was a room, and then you walked up another like 4 steps, and then there was like 2 more bedrooms, and you walked down like a couple steps. And
I just remember the only thing that was nice about that house was I think it was the master bedroom was kind of nice. Because I just remember it was long, and it was like it had like the arch ceilings or whatever. So I thought that was nice. But other than that, like every room was just too small to where I was like, I don't know what we're going to do with these rooms.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, I don't know how we're going to be able to fit like a full furniture set in here.
Yeah. And
like I think it was only 3 bedroom too.
It was only 3 bedroom. And I remember like they just had this like one room next to the crawl space. Like if you went down the right, like when you walk into the front door, you go down.
No.
Oh no! You're in like the
it's like the
living
kitchen,
room area,
and then you go down.
Yeah, I was just like, what would we even use that room for? Because like I couldn't even imagine putting a couch and a TV in there.
Yeah,
and like a TV stand. Like you would have to mount the TV flush against the wall to even walk by it.
Yeah, it just wasn't ideal because I know growing up, your mom did a lot of entertaining. We did a good amount of entertaining. I would like to entertain. So I know that was just kind of, there was not a lot of space for that, and that was not something we were interested in.
Yeah, and the flip was very sloppily done. I
It
remember
was.
finding lots of flaws on like all the walls. The refrigerator was
Was
all
dented.
banged up on the one side that was like facing away that you couldn't see when you walked in the kitchen, but like you could tell like all the appliances they got like, you know, the banged up discounted ones. Things like the countertop wasn't mounted properly. You know, electrical issues, like, you know, things that would come up in the future, but they just, you know,
It looked nice.
They painted everything. Yeah, they put in granite countertops and everything. Quick, easy things to make people want to buy the house, and they get rid of it, and then, you know, the new owners have to deal with all these issues that they created.
After that, I think was the one that we saw.
So I went to one without you, with my parents. The one directly behind my parents' house.
Oh, yeah,
Which
you did.
That house was just too overpriced, but it would have been so cool to share a backyard with my parents because we could have literally put a gate in their backyard, and then we could, you know, I could borrow the zero turn from my dad. But yeah, that would have been sweet because like my parents have a super long backyard, and then this property behind them has a long backyard up to the house.
And they had just put like a sunroom in the back.
Yeah, imagine like, oh, we want to go like, you know, we want to go out to dinner and we have to drop off lava. So we just take like, you know, the golf cart down the backyard up to their backyard and then just drop off lava.
Yeah. Or we like, let's go see Mom and just like open the gate and let her run.
Yeah. But that house was just not worth it. You know, it was very outdated. They were asking a lot of money for it. The only thing was the family room was awesome on it. They put a nice addition on with a nice sunroof or whatever. And like
the skylight.
Yeah, like skylight. And it was a beautiful family room. But other than that, you know, the whole house needed some work. And the price just wasn't there. You know, the final... The biggest thing is the price, right? Like that's just something we can't circumvent.
No, it's
or
not.
Or repair.
And then after that, I think we went and saw the one.
Yeah, so we could skip the one. Like we did see one that was near the one that we had some conversations about.
Yeah, the one off Coffle.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about that one.
That one was.
It's just same old story, right?
Yeah.
It was just like overpriced, too small, and outdated.
And there was a lot of stuff that we would have had to do with it.
And I keep saying outdated, and people are probably like, oh, like, can't you deal with like a little outdated? But like our house is outdated. Our house, like, you know, our kitchen's outdated. All the bathroom countertops were outdated and everything. But these other houses were really outdated.
Like really outdated.
Like
and
wallpaper
it was like,
in every room outdated.
And it's like some of them had like shelves built in to the walls, and it was not as functional as it could have been, and the amount of work we would have had to put in to make it as functional as we wanted or needed would have offset the price so much that it wasn't even worth it for us, for like what we wanted for our house.
Yeah. So that brings us to the split level.
No, because didn't we see the rancher first?
I was just skipping by those. Like they're all like the same story.
That one was interesting though, because they had turned the garage into like a game room, but everything, it was just one long strip of house.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. And it did have a little upstairs section, so it wasn't truly a rancher.
It was like a cape, whatever.
It was so weird. It was like
the one
it was
room
like a football field of house.
It
like,
was. It was like you walked in through the quote unquote garage, which
Yep.
was their game room, and then you walked into like another family room, and then you had to walk through like a mud room, through the living room, then you had the kitchen, and then through the kitchen you got to the bathroom and the 2 bedrooms, and then the stairs, and then the stairs you went upstairs, and then there were like 2 rooms up. No, there were 3 rooms upstairs.
They were so small.
They
though. I
were
remember
so
hitting my
small.
head
We
on
literally
it.
couldn't even stand up. And then the one bigger room up there was like floor to ceiling wood paneling. The floor was wood. The ceiling was wood. The like everything was the same color wood. It was insane.
It might have been an addition there because it might have been truly a rancher, and then they put an addition on. But it was,
It was-
weird, really weird floor layout, and just it's the same old story that we've been saying with every other house, where super outdated, had like all crystal doorknob hardware and
Yeah.
stuff, and like it was just too much work to make it what we would want to have. The only nice thing about that property was had an awesome yard.
It had a really nice yard and it was very close to your family.
Yeah. I think that's a little too close though. I actually would have preferred being behind
I was
them.
gonna say you wouldn't have the house behind them.
Yeah. I don't know. Wouldn't you think it would be cool for our kids to be able to just run across our yard to go in the pool?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is, stick with us here. This is a lot of information about
I know.
houses that we saw. But this one is probably where we learned the most, which was the split level that we looked at. This house was another flip. A little bit better done, but it was move-in ready.
It was move-in ready. Unfortunately, it was at the top of our budget, but it was move-in ready. All of the painting was done. All of the rooms looked all nice. The counters in the kitchen were modernized and updated. It had a little mud room at the bottom.
Yeah,
That I really liked. I could have seen us hosting people there. That was the first place where I was like, I could see us like creating a home here.
yes. It was definitely one of the nicest houses that we looked at. But I just didn't have I had a gut feeling about it. This is where we had to have a serious conversation.
This one even had a big yard.
This had a big yard.
It had a big yard that was like fenced. Was it fenced?
It was not fenced.
It was not fenced. It
The
had
new owners have chickens, so
They
now
do
it is
have
fenced.
chickens. I love driving past them, and you can see if the gate's open, you can see the chickens.
Yeah.
I love it.
But this house was a very interesting point at our house looking adventure, because we came home after looking at that house, and Jamie was saying that we had a conversation, and she said that she thinks that we should put an offer in on that house.
I was ready to put an offer in. Like I said, I could see us raising a family there. Yes, I mean, everything has its drawbacks, but yeah, I mean, the split level kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't like a split level house to begin with, and that might have weighed in a little bit.
But
Also, I
mean,
know that there's no sidewalks. It is on a corner of 2 very busy streets.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of concerning as well. But I really can't describe this gut feeling that I had. I just had this feeling deep down inside that I couldn't say yes to putting an offer in, and I was kind of on the fence because I knew that you really wanted to put an offer in, and I don't know.
And
it was a hard decision.
And at this point, I mean, so your parents came with us to just about every viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we toured a house or did a walkthrough, they came with us, and they also shared their opinions. We shared ours. And this one, when I was like, I'm okay to put an offer in on, we actually had to remove ourselves from that room. It was just you and me sitting down talking. And we had to be like, okay, what do we like about this house? What do we not like about this house? Is there a hard stop? Is there something that's a hard stop where you're like, I just cannot get past this?
And the hard thing for me was I couldn't really describe what the hard stop was. Yes, it didn't have a sidewalk, or like it was on a busy street, and I don't really like the split level, but like, I don't know, in the moment, I couldn't describe exactly why I was so hesitant about it.
And then I said, okay.
You were very comforting about it because
like
you were very accepting of not putting an offer in too, but you stated that you wanted to, and then you were like, but if you don't want to, then let's not do it.
Yeah,
you were very good about that.
It's our house, and that's the thing. Like it's somewhere where we are going to raise our family. So if it's something that, if you're buying a house with someone else and they're not comfortable with it for whatever reason, whether it be a gut feeling or there's just something they cannot get past, then you got to listen to it, because it's...
Yeah, I just had a gut feeling. I don't know, but, after some long discussions and everything, we came to the conclusion that we were not going to put an offer in on that house.
Yeah, and it was a later night because our offer had to be in that night. They were giving offers the next morning.
Yeah, COVID really just screwed up with everything, but the market was so aggressive this whole time that we were looking at houses. Like the house that I looked at with my parents when you weren't there, the one behind their house, when we showed up, the selling realtor mentioned to us as we're walking in, she said, we already have 6 offers and most of them are $25,000 and over. Like $25,000 plus over the asking price. And that's what they're prefacing you going into the look through with. So like, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, it's the houses were going very quickly, which it's difficult if it's a big life decision, and some people need to sit and think about it. Some people aren't, okay, let's grab it. And that makes it more difficult.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely made for some stressful nights. Like this night in particular that we were talking about with the split level, it was a stressful night because we're sitting there talking about these things that are going to affect us for the rest of our life, presumably, and you have to have these conversations, think about it fully within a few hours, because your realtor is, on the other end of the line waiting to hear, do I need to start writing up an offer? How much you're going to offer, or what, special things are you going to do in your offer? Ugh, man, yeah. I'm getting stressed just thinking about it already.
And because in addition to that, you also have to have the what's it called? Pre-approval.
Well, we're already pre-approved at this point, though.
Right, but if you need to adjust it.
Yeah, she needs to get in contact with the mortgage broker and stuff.
If you're going to have I can't say adjusted, but like an adjustable letter where you can talk to your mortgage broker and be like, hey, this is our cap offer. Can you send us an approval letter for this cap? Like, they're going to need time to get that fixed up and sent over to your realtor. So it's very pressure. It's a very high stress situation. But
yeah, and then that brings us to
our current house.
Our current house that we own. Ish. The bank kind of owns it and we're paying for it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
But yeah, this house, boy, was it a freaking mess when we came in. But from the street, it looks big, and I was like, whoa, that's exciting.
So when we looked at the house, if you could get past the Disney haunted castle-esque trees that were like growing all around the house, like vines in the siding and everything, like the outside looked very unkempt.
Which brings us to the inside, which was very
unkempt.
But yeah, it's just like this house. I mean, we looked through it. We walked around the whole house. They showed us the property line, ish. because
Ish.
they didn't really
So
know exactly.
it was
but-
also dark when we got here because it was in December. So even like we got here at like 4 or 5 o'clock and it was still like dark out.
Yeah. So we didn't get a great view of the outside, but did notice though the window boxes were all rotted. So we just knew that that was something we had to work on. We did tour the house. The house had a ton of crap everywhere because this guy has yet to start moving his stuff out.
Didn't even start packing.
This guy divorced of 5 years. He has multiple kids. Has a new girlfriend. He's been staying at her house most of the time, so the house is rarely occupied. He still has all his kids' stuff here, all the stuff that he hasn't touched for years. You live in a house for 20 years, you're gonna acquire a lot of crap.
He wasn't here for 20 years though. He was here for like 5.
5, whatever. I mean,
Well, that's what
but
like
look at how many we stayed in our apartment for 2 years. Look at how much crap you got.
I love you.
Yeah. So, times that by 2. And in, a house with 2 kids as well.
I
A lot
know.
of stuff.
There was a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that had fallen into disrepair that wasn't like necessarily the house itself, but like he had a fish tank that just like it didn't look like it had been like cared for in a while. Like I said, when we saw the master bathroom, there's like a dead plant in the corner. It just looked like it hadn't been watered in God knows how long. But being able to look past all of that, I mean, it seemed very spacious, especially compared to some of the other stuff we'd looked at.
Yeah, the master bedroom, super nice.
It was huge. Master bedroom was huge. All the bedrooms are a good size.
Yeah.
The basement, there was definitely a lot of potential for like a game area or an entertaining space, like someplace like if we finished it that our future kids could hang out in, or we could host parties or anything.
Yep. It's located in a cul-de-sac. At the end of the cul-de-sac, and a lot of nice families nearby.
Has sidewalks.
It's in a nice neighborhood. Sidewalks throughout the whole neighborhood. We saw other families and kids around here.
Yep.
So, the walkthrough was probably only like 30 minutes. That's
Yes.
the scary thing about about this whole process is that, and especially during the time that we were in, they probably showed the house 4 times that night. And, you walk through for 30 minutes and then you have to make a decision whether you're going to spend, more money than you could ever
Could
imagine
fathom.
having at one time.
Yeah.
So afterwards,
We went and got pizza
we did,
and we talked about it.
and we talked about it.
Do you want me to talk about? Okay.
No,
So,
no, it's okay. We're
no,
not
so
gonna go
listen.
here.
So
Yeah.
here's the story. Let me set the scene.
Look,
This
okay.
day.
Wait,
it
what is
is-
it? What is it?
Listen, okay?
Look, listen, okay?
Um
Jason, I just shouted it out again.
no, so let me set the scene. It is 2 days before Christmas.
It's okay.
I believe it's 2 days before Christmas.
Yep.
I am still working close to the city. So I have a drive. I like have a decent drive into the city. It's like 35 minutes to my current job, where at that point I had only had like
Well, we
It's-
lived in Manioc. At the time.
yeah, so it was like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah.
Depending on if I got stuck behind like a school bus or whatever. But then while I'm there, I'm like working 7 to 3. During that entire time, I don't get a lunch break. I don't get a bathroom break. I have a clementine to eat. A clementine during my, was that 8-hour shift? Then I drive close to an hour back to your parents' house because you texted me, said, hey, you need to have XYZ information and can you meet me at my parents' house like after work? I said, yeah, sure. So I drive that hour, get to your parents' house. I walk in. The first thing you say to me was, do you have the paperwork?
Yeah, that was important.
And I said, hi, honey. Yes, I do. My day was great. Thank you so much for asking. How are you?
We're on a strict time you know.
So I give him all the paperwork. Like I said, I still haven't had a chance to pee. So I give him the paperwork. I use the restroom. We pile into his dad's car, come over to the house. We take the 30 minutes, do a whole walk around. We're standing upstairs after all of this. Our realtor's like, do you plan on making an offer? Do you think you're going to make an offer? Like, what's the offer going to be? I'm standing there, I'd gotten up at probably like 6. And at this point, it's probably like 5:30 at night. I had had one single clementine to eat the entire day. After dealing with the public, not being able to pee for the 8+ hours I was on my feet. And you're like, well, are we going to make an offer? I said, I'm not making any life-changing decisions until I get food in my system.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted the house.
And apparently that was the wrong thing to say.
Well, I'm just saying, we just mentioned it 5 minutes ago that this was such an aggressive time for buying houses. Like, it could be 30 minutes and we lost the house because we had to go eat.
Well, they said they were like presenting offers in the morning.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It could take like in the morning. I could take 10 minutes to like house a slice of pizza.
Okay. So anyway,
I'm just saying.
You had your pizza and then we talked about it and we both liked the house. So we put in an offer and we put in an offer with this escalation clause. We put in an offer of the price of the house. And then we also, I think we made it pend on,
it was pending.
It wasn't pending on the inspection itself, but like if anything over $5,000 worth of repairs, then like, the seller would be responsible for fixing that. The next morning I get a text and, they were like, well, the house climbed all the way back up to your cap or whatever, whatever we put up. But he was wondering, can we drop the inspection clause of our offer? Because one, he already had an offer in on a house that he was buying. He can't afford any hiccups in his process or that would drop his sale through. And also, I'm sure he knew that there was more than $5,000 worth of damage at the house and everything, but whatever.
But he also had to get out of the house like sooner. So
Yeah,
I know when you add the inspection stuff that like just that takes a lot more time.
Yeah. So really our realtor was like, it went to the top of your offer. He wants you to drop the inspection and he wants to close within 30 days. And then from that, I had to call you because you were at work. And then I talked to you, and then I talked to the realtor again. And what we came up with is that we took $5,000 off of. We were like, all right, well then just give us the $5,000 off of the house, and we're gonna waive the inspection, but we're still gonna have the inspection.
Yeah,
it's just
not
nothing's
gonna
dependent on it. It's more for our information.
But then didn't they also tell our realtor that it had hit our cap? But then you're like, well, what did the other person offer? Like, what did it get up to?
Oh, yeah, because they tried to screw us out of another, like, $5,000 or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I forget exactly what happened there, but it's just like, for anybody that's listening and interested in buying houses, it's like, just make sure you ask questions and you know exactly what's going on. If anybody's vague about something, ask for specific details,
Yeah.
Generally, people that are listening, we know mostly who you are. You're smart. You're smart. We know you guys are smart. So just, ask specific questions.
Of course they're smart. They're listening to us.
I know, but I'm just saying, ask specific questions. Get all the details you can, make informed decisions. So we ended up, making our decision. We told them, here's the deal. Here's our counter offer. They accepted. Boom, we're set to close in 30 days. We're already at an hour and 20 minutes.
Do you want to talk about the inspection and everything?
I think we could talk about, maybe we should do an episode on our house.
Yeah, we should do an episode on our house.
Yeah.
Like what we've done to make it ours.
Yeah. but like there's so much more, right? Like once you actually make the offer and it's accepted, there's a ton of mortgage stuff you got to do. There's a ton of like
It's lots of paperwork.
yeah, it's tons of paperwork. You have to set up all these things. Like we set up the inspection, and you got to pay that person, and then you set up the appraisal. You have to get the house appraised for the mortgage company. So then you got to find an appraiser, which your realtor can recommend, or the mortgage company can recommend, and then you got to pay them. They walk you through that whole process. It's like the hard part is getting the offer accepted.
Additionally, the other big thing to know about, just in terms of buying houses, I know I'm not going to try and take too long, but don't make any other large purchases while you are getting everything squared away for your house, because when that messes up with your assets and everything, how much you own versus how much you owe on everything, and that can really mess with your mortgage and your rates and everything. That's not something we had to deal with, but that is something that I have seen a lot of people like warn against. Like, you just like don't make, and like I'm talking like a car or like something massive.
Yeah, I don't. I think that is something that your mortgage company tells you about.
I was gonna say, I felt like we heard it from someone just kind of like joking, oh, like, yeah, you're not gonna go buy like another.
My parents told us that too, because I think Barry dealt with some weird mortgage things, because like I think he made like a cash deposit that was
Oh yeah, that was like a large
he wasn't even
amount.
spending money, he was actually depositing money, but during the limbo time of you're trying to get all your mortgage details settled, they like want to know everything about, if you have cash outgoing that's significant, which I think significant is probably like, $1,000 or more. Then they want to know like, where did this money go, or where did it come from, stuff like that. But I think generally, once your offer's accepted, if you have a good realtor, good mortgage broker, they'll walk you through the whole process. It's nothing but signing papers from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you got yourself a nice old house.
Yes, and then we'll tell you on our next episode what to do to make it your house.
Are we going to do that next? We don't know what we're going to do next. Don't promise that.
I'm not okay.
Who knows?
It will be coming
Now I
in
feel
the
a lot of
future.
pressure.
It'll be. It's just gas. It's fine. No, so that will be coming up in some future episode, because I do like the story of our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you have any questions or comments or concerns about buying a house,
We only take positive comments or concerns.
I'm fine with anything. But if you have any questions about our experience buying a house, feel free to send them in to diariesofworkingcouple@gmail.com, or send them to our Instagram @diariesofworkingcouple.
Or you can just, if you have cocktail recipes, food recipes.
Literally anything. You just want to say hi, feel free to send an email that just says hi.
You want to send pictures of your pets, we always welcome pet pictures.
Yeah. And we're going to wrap this up now, so we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Peace.